Star Wars Scouting Crew has come to an end. At least season 1. Will we get to season 2? I don't know. Story-wise, we don't need a season 2 because what was needed to be told for the show itself has been done. But there are threads that they can take revolving around, the kids and Attin now that they are reconnected with the wider galaxy and have made contact with the New Republic. There's what Jude is going to be up to. So there's threads that they can take for new stories, but some of those might be better to be, maybe books or comics or show up in other avenues. So will we get a season 2 or not? I don't know. We don't need a season 2. This is not like the Star Wars The Acolyte, which needs a season 2 to finish its story. Its season 1 story ended, but not its overarching story. And sadly, I don't think we'll get a season 2 of Star Wars The Acolyte. Go check out my reviews of The Acolyte if you would like to see my thoughts on it. I know a lot of people didn't like it, have very negative views, but I didn't have that viewpoint, so you can go check out what I had to say. And apparently I've seen online people claiming that the Scouting Crew has even lower viewership than The Acolyte does, and that might be partially to blame for The Acolyte. Because, if you remember way back when the sequel trilogy was airing, 2017, Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi, came out to a very divided reception among fans. Very divided. You had people who saw it was the best thing ever, and some people who saw it was the worst thing ever, and everything in between. A couple months later, in May of the following year, is when Solo, A Star Wars Story, came out, which has the lowest viewership rate or whatever of the entire movies. So between all 3 sequel trilogy movies and Solo and Rogue One, Solo has the least viewpoint. And that's kind of what happened to Scouting Crew too. Very good, interesting story. I do think Scouting Crew is actually better executed than Solo, in terms of its medium, because movie, TV show, slightly different mediums, and therefore storytelling methods and all that might be done slightly differently. But both really good stories and all that, but suffered because they came very shortly after a very controversial piece of Star Wars media. And this is, I think, something that Lucasfilm needs to learn. They need to make sure they have enough space between shows, especially for live action shows and movies, where there's enough space for people to, think things over, mull things over, because many people, I don't think, checked out Scouting Crew because they hated The Acolyte and therefore vowed never to watch Star Wars again. You had people, they heard bad things about The Acolyte and assumed Scouting Crew was going to be bad as well, even though they never saw it either. And I wouldn't call this necessarily burnout. It could definitely be burnout, but I do think the fact that you have that negative reception of the most recent piece of Star Wars media, live action media, impacts the following one when it follows too closely. So, spacing between the shows, Lucasfilm, you need to increase that just a little bit so that way people, if they don't like it, have more time to maybe come to terms and accept that's alright, I'll give the next one a try. But having too close together, that mentality may not be developing, may not be occurring in the minds of some fans. But with that all out of the way and said, I love Scouting Crew, and let's talk about each individual episode. There'll be timestamp down below, but I encourage you to watch all of them to the very end to see all my thoughts. Now, this could definitely be a real adventure. This is my spoiler-free review of the first episode of Star Wars Scouting Crew. This could be a real adventure. This episode is setting up Scouting Crew. Now, I haven't seen episode 2 yet, as of the recording of this spoiler-free review. Full review will be coming out tomorrow. I feel like this has done a good job of setting us up. It introduced us to our 4 main characters. We have the kid seeking adventure. We have the rebellious kid. We have the kid who's pretty good-handed. Then we have who I presume is going to be the kid who is going to be the moral center of the group. We have that. We're introduced to a few of the parents. We're introduced to the world they'll come from and that it's boring. We figured that from the trailer, so that's not a big spoiler. It sets stuff up and it also begins the adventure. But that's all I'm going to say. Is stay tuned for my full review. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. If you're looking for a brand new Star Wars adventure, I think we have that with Star Wars Skeleton Crew's first episode. This could be a real adventure. Now, this is going to be my first spoiler review. If you want to avoid spoilers, please wait until you've watched the episode or go check out my spoiler-free review, link in the cards. Let's just get into it, what this episode is about. It's setting everything up. It's the episode that's showing us what the status quo of the world is, the world of Skeleton Crew. It's obviously in Star Wars, but it's not quite, because these kids are clearly living a pretty sheltered and boring life on their home planet. We have our 4 main characters. We have Wyn, Fern, KB, and Neel. So those are our 4 main characters, and each, I feel like, are going to fit into a different archetype. We have Wyn. He's definitely the character who's probably the most wanting to seek out an adventure. He's bored with his life. But so is also Fern, but she's bored in a different way, and she's also definitely rebelling against her mother, who's pretty high up in the education system, the undersecretary or whatever, for the standardized test that's going on in this episode in the background, which Wyn never actually does take. Then we also have KB. She's clearly intended to be probably the smart one and the mechanic of the group, for lack of better term, the tech one. She has a fancy thing, kind of like glasses, but not. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Jodie's visor from Star Trek, but combined with, the thing Lobot has around his head in Empire Strikes Back. And then we have Neel, who I'm thinking is going to be the more center of the group. He's clearly Wen's only friend, it feels like. Seems like they're both all kind of, they're not really part of a bigger friend group. Except for Neel, they're somehow all dissatisfied with their lot in life. Definitely this planet clearly is very much modeled off of suburbia, but notice something about that. They have roads now, but the cars are following like a track in a way. The trams are following a track. So, literally, suburban life is often sometimes described as confining, as, you fit in your lane and you go that, while rural and urban existences are more glamorous in one form or another, depending on, exactly which author we're talking about there for that interpretation and all that, but there's that kind of frame of a suburban prison in some way, where you're just following things in life, you're doing boring stuff. Like for the career assessment test, which is that standardized test, they ask the kids what they want to, be in preparation the day before, of course. Now, when that stuff is asked in our schools in real life, people say things like, I want to be a firefighter, I want to be an astronaut, and maybe some adults like, good luck, especially with the astronaut one, but we're generally encouraging of that, more likely somebody says a boring career that's vital but nobody wants to do because it's boring. That's more likely to get kids to look at other kids' view. But here, when Wyn says that he wants to help others, he doesn't want to be an analyst or anything like that, not only do the other students basically look at him like, why? The teacher, which is just a droid, says, oh, there's safety droids for that. Dismissing him. That's very bad educational standards, by the way. Just very bad. No, don't do that in the school. That's how you bully kids and put them down as teachers. There's other ways too, but that's one way. That's supporting them, encouraging their growth. So you can kind of tell that this planet is designed to basically be planet suburbia. Show all the downsides of it. All the problems and boring existence. Now, Skeleton Crew has taken inspiration from a lot of Amblin Entertainment films. So, Steven Spielberg's films, some of his films, of course, not all of his. Also, the films, Kids Go on Adventure, 80s films like that. So, there's a lot of that inspiration there, and the common theme is the kids are living a boring life and they want adventure, and that's what we're getting in this episode. We're getting introduced to these kids so we know they want adventure. Even now, who I think is the most content with his lot of life, still goes along, and you can tell he probably still wants adventure in some form. And also, too, Neel also clearly is coming from a loving, supporting family. He has his father, his mother, and he has siblings as well. And side note, when we see some of Neel's siblings, there's a Star Wars Holiday Special reference. Did not expect that in Skeleton Crew. I'm happy for it, and it is awesome. Now back to the regular video. Clearly he's the only child, and his mother's no longer in the picture. sounds like she passed away. So he's missing something in his life though, because his father is very busy with working, therefore is more distant than I think Wyn would like. Fern's mother is also clearly high up in probably the planetary government and all that, and she's clearly rebelling against her mother. Probably is not giving the love and support that she wants from home as well. No idea if there's another parent in the picture. And then of course we have KB. We don't know much about her home life, but we just don't know how that impacts her. But hey, maybe that's something we'll learn later on as well. She's definitely the character that we got the least insight to in this first episode of our main kid characters. And then of course there's also the adventure that they go on, because, well, on the way to school for the standardized test, Wyn gets lost because he oversleeps, misses his tram, and so he tries to take a shortcut, and then he discovers something. He thinks it's the Jedi Temple. His father doesn't believe him, because his father is like, you missed your test. You're lucky that you'll get another chance, but you have to get. But I was able to only get it so that way you have to get every question right in order to even pass. So yeah, not very supportive. Doesn't listen, because like, he was late to school. Why was he late to school? That's the important thing to understand. Like he says, I found something in the woods. I missed it. I overslept. I took a shortcut to the woods and I found something, and I got caught in a ravine. He could have said something like that, but he didn't. But again, he's a kid. He's looking for adventure and all that, so it makes sense. An adult might have been smarter, but this is a kid, and especially a kid who, in the episode, the other kids call him immature, and yeah, maybe he is a little immature, but there's nothing wrong with him wanting to help others. But maybe obsession with, wanting to be a Jedi. He says he doesn't, but I bet he does. Might be it's definitely a thing impacting his choices, even subconsciously, but he could grow up a little bit, learn to take a little more responsibility, and then maybe he will have better time explaining what actually happened rather than being dismissed out of hand by his father and the proctor. Not called principal, or it could be the proctor because the proctor is administering the test that he missed. Could go either way. So there's that going on as well. And they find, then eventually all four of our main characters converge, and yeah, they'll know some classic middle school behavior. That classic middle school behavior of boys versus girls and all that, and each other thinking the others are dumb, that kind of stuff. Anyhow, they get inside wherever Wyn found, and Wyn's still thinking it's a Jedi temple. It's not. It's a ship. It's, as we go more, it figure out a ship, and it's also upside down as well. And there's a droid on board. But they accidentally get locked in. They do chase a power conduit, and they reactivate the ship, and they do try to get out, but Wyn presses a button. He says he didn't, but he presses a button, and somehow that started the ship leaving on autopilot, leaving the plane. And Wyn's father does see this, so at least one adult knows what has happened. Hopefully, everyone else listens to Wyn's father. So they leave the planet, and the droid also reactivates, so they have not interacted with the droid reactivated yet. And the shot of them going into hyperspace, first, I should say before they even get there, first is what they describe as a barrier around the planet. I'm wondering if very few people leave the planet. I wonder if the government of that planet makes people think it's impossible to leave. They go through the barrier no problem, but they act like it's going to be devastating, that they're going to get destroyed. I'm thinking there's a government conspiracy that keeps people from leaving the planet, except for a few select people. They obviously know about the Jedi, but do they know about the Empire? Do they know about the New Republic? I kind of get the impression they do, but kind of not. So something's weird going on with the planet. These kids, I don't know about the wider galaxy. Only KB knew that what they were seeing in once they passed through the barrier was stars. Wyn thought it was planets. So clearly they've lived a sheltered existence on the home world, a boring sheltered existence, and sounds like they've never even seen stars in the sky. So something's going on, and clearly they were able to get through that barrier no problem. Something's not up with that. Something's not up. And then they all freak out when the ship goes into hyperspace, because they clearly barely know about space in general, so of course they're not going to know about hyperspace. And that's where the episode ends. But I still need to talk about the cold open, the prologue, which establishes that the Empire is no more, the New Republic reigns, but there's pirates all over the place. And, well, the crazy thing is that it's a great opening. I don't know why I was trying to say crazy, but it's a great opening. We have a freighter that's being attacked by pirates, and the freighter people put up actually a pretty good fight, but there's just way too many pirates and all that, and the pirates take the ship, and then the captain, who I'm pretty sure is Jude Law's character, confronts the freighter captain and is like, open your vault. Basically, he's trying to, apparently, they've not been making good loot lately and all that with some of the other picks, so they're hoping that this ship in its vault has lots of credits. The captain says they don't have any credits. There's one credit. And then the crew turns on the captain, who again I'm pretty sure is a Jude Law's character, and I think the person who's like a wolfman type thing, who I think is the number 2 guy, I think he's going to take control of the pirates, and then they're going to maroon Jude Law's character somewhere, and he's going to bump into these kids, and they're going to use these kids to somehow get something. I'm not sure. I know some people are speculating that his character might have been Force sensitive or a Jedi. It's possible that he may be Force sensitive, but I'm pretty sure he's the captain character. I could be wrong. I did not pay attention to the credits because I wanted to keep this speculation open. I am going to go watch episode 2 once I finish recording this. So that's pretty much all I have to say, but to summarize, this episode I think did a really good job at introducing us to the world these kids are from, introducing us to the kids. I have a sense of who each kid is and how they're going to play into the group dynamic. We also got some impression on what could be some of the threats that we're going to be facing, as well as hints that everything on the home world is not as it seems. But that's where I'm going to leave you guys, and I want to hear from you. What did you think of this could be a real adventure in the comment section down below? This may be way out there, but it's in a galaxy far away. This is my spoiler-free review of the 2nd episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Way out past the barrier. So this episode is really throwing our main characters head on into the adventure. They're introduced to the wider galaxy outside the home world and learn that it's not the same at all. And they learn some things as well on their... This is going to be a minor spoiler, but they want to get back home and they learn something about the home. But I won't say more because I don't want to spoil it, but my full review will be coming out later tomorrow. But this was a great piece, like the first episode, which got us introduced to the world the kids come from. This gets us introduced into the world of the greatest Star Wars galaxy that they are going to be learning about. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. This may be way out there, but it's in a galaxy far away. This is going to be my full spoiler review of the 2nd episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, that being way past the barrier. So this episode picks up where the last episode leaves off. The kids have been to hyperspace and they're lost in space. I really wish they used that line because that would have been so great, but they are effectively lost in space, and the droid on board SM, he does not recognize the name of their planet. And he takes them to a port, a very seedy port, because as we learn later on, he thinks they're all pirates. And they get into trouble on that planet. And nobody has ever heard of their planet, or they think it's a myth. They're going to try to find directions, of course, and only one person seems to be of any interest of helping them, because there are a bunch of kids at a pirate port, and that definitely being the lady who's working at a establishment. Probably because she doesn't want to see them thrown into, the life that she has found herself in. That's my guess. And she doesn't believe them when they say that. Probably thinking, they're kids, they're just choosing a fake planet name. Or why would they're kids, they're choosing that legend planet. The thing is some of those pirates, once they start seeing the credits and that Wen has on hand, they start thinking maybe this planet is real and its treasures are real as well. And we got a good look at the credits this time, unlike in the last episode, and it's the Old Republic insignia, not New Republic, Old Republic. So that is definitely something. This plan has been cut off and all that. Anyhow, they go through it eventually, they get in trouble and all that. The droid does try to save them, but the new captain who runs this everything has clearly he's damaged SM, and SM would have been the only person who actually had information because these kids don't know anything. The pirates are not saying it's through, of course. But they're wondering things now. They're definitely wondering. They're thrown in the break where they meet Jude Law's character. I know that's at the end of the episode, but most of the episode is them exploring the strange world, getting familiar, not familiar per se, but learning that things are not at all like it is back home for them. They're learning about this wider galaxy, and it's not going to be a perfectly safe place. Fern and KB have met one person who seems to be semi-trustworthy. Again, clearly she's not in the best line of work. She probably has to be very careful, but she definitely seems like she cares about them from what she literally knows, and she doesn't want them to get wrapped up in anything or harmed or anything. Likely she probably maybe sees a little bit of her younger self and doesn't want these kids to accidentally get wrapped up with pirates and not be able to live a safe life. Very possible. We don't know. We'll probably never see her again. But it's just something I kind of want to point out, that random strangers with a little bit of act of kindness in a sea of people without any act of kindness. And like I said, in the break they meet Jude Law's character. I'm pretty sure is the captain from the prologue of the first episode. And he's probably lying about how long he's been in the brig, but he is a Force user, and he uses that to get the key to get them out on the one condition that they take him to their planet. So either he's given up the life of piracy and he just wants to get away from it all. Possible. 2, he could actually be a Jedi, like when it infers from him using the Force. He's probably not a Jedi, but he is a Force user. And he wants to get someplace safe because he's being hunted. Though with New Republic around, he wouldn't be hunted at least by the galactic government, but the pirates might still be hunting him because, they turned on him, they mutinied. Or maybe, it's a long con by the pirates because they are trying to find this planet and he's going to lead the pirates there and they're going to pillage it. All are equally possible, equally likely. Now, what do I think is going on? That's going to be another video. I'm going to have a video, maybe after next week's episode when we learn more about Jude Law's character. Hopefully nothing gets revealed, talking about who I think he actually is. But in brief, I don't think he's a Jedi. If anything, he's a Jedi who's totally abandoned the Force, the Jedi order and principle has become a pirate. But that's the best possibility for him being a Jedi. But at the very least, he's a Force user. He was the captain, but he's no longer the pirate captain, and now he's trying to, run away. I'm almost wondering, could we get some maybe Treasure Island vibes. So Treasure Planet is a really good adaptation. But I do wonder if there might be any inspiration from Treasure Island it's thrown in at all. It's a possibility. I don't know. But like I said, it's a really good episode. I do think I liked episode 1 a bit better than this episode. I think that's just because the previous episode felt way much more like what a lot of the inspiration I feel like they took for this series. Obviously there's a lot more inspiration, but especially the inspiration, the marketing was more heavily prevalent in episode 1. Here it feels like we're getting more inspiration from pirates and all that. Different genres, definitely, but hey, it's working. I just need to see more of it and how they expand and explore it all, because again, lots of very interesting stuff and I want to see more. I love seeing all the weird aliens. We really didn't get that in Andor, and this is really good, and we're getting these weird aliens. You can definitely tell they're using a lot of practical effects. They're probably definitely and CGI. I could tell there's some instances where practical CGI. They definitely had that going on. It was really interesting, and it's interesting to see what comes of. Are the kids going to get home? Which I think is yes. But now the pirates are aware the home planet might be real and not a pirate legend. So that is going to be really interesting. So the planet, I'm thinking that treasure is real, and the planet has artificially ages ago created that barrier to protect themselves from pirates. it can let people out, but not let people in, is my guess. That's probably why that ship crashed that the kids found. That's my theory. Again, I'll be making hopefully a whole video on some of the speculation stuff. But as of right now, I think it's really interesting. Lots of interesting threads in there that I can't wait to see how they'll explode and tugged on. The character development that different characters are going to go through. And just the overall adventure. I really can't wait to see how this all unfolds. But in the meantime, I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode in the comment section down below. Welcome to my spoiler-free review of Star Wars Skeleton Crew Episode 3, Very Interesting as an Astrogation Problem. So this episode picks up where the previous episode leaves off and sees our main characters continue on their journey to find their home, to return home. So that's the basic premise of the episode. To say more would be to invite spoilers, but it is sufficient to say that more of the mystery that the first two episodes present are unraveled, and we get more hints at what is going on. But to really talk about them, we're going to have to get into spoilers, and for that, my full review will be coming out later today. It will be linked down below, so go check that out. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. The third episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Very Interesting as an Astrogation Problem, is an intriguing episode, and it opens up more possibilities, more avenues of the mystery. We still don't know what it is, but it opens up more. Now, this review will contain spoilers, so you have been warned. I released my spoiler-free review earlier today, so go check that out if you want to avoid spoilers. But let's just jump right on into it. So, the first part of the episode is them getting off that pirate base. So, Jude Law's character helps them escape, but of course, they convince him to go back to get SM-33. Good on the kid. Jude Law's character, I'm questioning if you're a Jedi, considering, you really don't want to help the droid. Yes, many Jedi are, very detached in that, but come on. But should we just jump ahead? And this is something I speculated in my Who is Jude Law's Character theory video. Jude Law's character is not a Jedi. He's not. In fact, that's pretty much confirmed at the end of the episode, because that was part of the arc, with him admitting that Bill fact to the kids. There's a lot more he still needs to admit to them, but if my hunch on him being very similar to Long John Silver from Treasure Island is correct, this is step one of him growing as a character, because just like the kids who are going to be maturing in their own way, he's also going to be maturing. In fact, he gives this line to the kids that he's just like them, a loner. Not quite, but I think that's not so far off. I wouldn't be surprised if in some ways he's still a kid. He's not grown up, learned to take responsibility and maturity. Yes, this episode confirms that he's Captain Silver, the pirate captain. We already knew that, and we knew that he was mutinied against. That was kind of obvious, but this episode confirms it. And yes, he got that high, but look how Fern just convinced SM that she was the new captain of the ship just by bluffing. But she hasn't really learned any necessary maturity. Yes, she's more mature than Neel and Wim is, but it's easy to be more mature when, one, you're a middle school girl who's probably 2 years older, so you're going to seem like at least 4 years older than the middle school boys in this show. I'm just saying, middle school girls typically are a little more mature in their behavior and all that. It's a fact. And just gotta remember back to middle school. But of course, there's more going on as well. There's several indicators of his behavior that support that he's not a Jedi, and he does admit that. I still think he can use the Force, no doubt about that. I wouldn't be surprised if, much like Rim, he grew up hearing stories about the Jedi, and he probably would have been really young during the Clone Wars if he was alive back then. And I mean, really young, 2 or 3, but still, or maybe old, I'm not sure how old his character actually is, but he might have knew a little about the Jedi before the Empire, but heard stories about them, and may have one time even imagined himself being a Jedi. And I think it's safe to say that he did, teach himself some Force skills. I think that's safe to say, but there's more to the character. We learn another one of his aliases, so not only does he has his Nawood, whatever name that he told the kids. We already know he's Captain Silver, but we also know he goes by the name Chrism Jack. because he goes to a old friend of his who promptly calls the New Republic authorities. Right on you, Kim. Like, yeah, apparently, I wouldn't be surprised if they at one time had a bad breakup too. It's just that the impression the dialogue gave me. But the thing is that she's clearly an astronomer. Her moon base is basically an observatory and all that. And she does calculate a potential location for Attin based off of what the kids have told her, and also the symbol on Fern's basically class leader patch, a badge from being the top student in her class. And you can tell she was getting excited, but of course she was trying to delay so the New Republic authorities could get there and arrest Jude Law's character. Of course, she also got excited because, yeah, deep down she believed Attin does exist, and we learn more about it. One, the kids do at least know about some of the other planets in the galaxy like Coruscant and Alderaan, and they don't know about Alderaan's destruction yet. So that's something. They missed the entire war, which is something we are aware of, but this confirms that they have been separated from the galaxy since at least the time of the Clone Wars. Before that. Much longer, in my opinion, for it to become obscure legends and all that. There's also mentioned that they can't leave the homeworld somehow as part of the Great Books. That's also been kind of sad. So whatever is going on, there's connected with the Great Books in some form. We also, this is in a different theme, but both Neel's parents and KB's parents are analysts and what they're analyzing. And Wim's speculation might be money. Or not analysts, and they might be analyzing something related to money and the treasure. We don't know that for sure, but it's a possibility. Because look how all the pirates in the previous episode, I got really excited over the credits that Wim had on hand. So there's still some mystery there. And we don't know. And when the New Republic X-Wing pilots land and Kim goes to speak with them, she tells them that they wouldn't believe where they were going. So there's some interesting stuff going on there. Jude Law's character is not being fully honest with their kids, but now the New Republic knows that Attin might be real, so this could be very interesting. I've also seen on social media primarily threads of people speculating that Attin could have a first order connection. While very interesting, I really don't think that's a possibility because I think they've been separated for so long, but it's not impossible. I could see the Emperor doing a side project to find Attin and still keep it hidden. Not impossible, but I just don't buy it. I think something happened with Attin, most likely connected to Grey Works, and pirates interested, and they closed off for safety reasons, and they've lost the reason. So now they could probably reconnect to the galaxy and be fine. Potentially, we don't know. But if we take what Kim said at face value, and I do think she's a trustworthy character, is that, and not just because, she contacted the New Republic, I just think she's a more trustworthy character than Jude Law's character, is she mentions the Old Republic. So, we got a lot of hints. We still don't have the mystery solved yet, but that's what's so amazing about Skeleton Crew, is this interesting mystery that we need to see unravel. This is more of a mystery show than The Acolyte was. And I think a lot of us was expecting The Acolyte to be a mystery show, and that's why many people weren't that receptive to it. Granted, I've already gotten one person complaining about the Skeleton Crew, even though one episode claiming plot holes and all that. It's only 2 episodes a day at this point. You can't please everyone, of course, but still, a little more sensible in some regards, people, please. But the point being, we got some great stuff, and we also got the beginning of Jude Law's character telling the kids the truth, as I said earlier. Hopefully he'll spill the entire beans. There was that one scene when in the droid bay on the pirate base where he was talking with a former crewmate to him who might have been willing to side with his character, but chose to side with Brutus instead. Got some analysis there too. Brutus et tu, Brute? I honestly think that might have been intentional. And also Brute. I think clever stuff there. But the point being is, he says that Jude Law's character to the other pirate said that he thinks he's found his big score. And I think that's what his initial motivations are. He's trying to find a big score for himself. I don't think he has any intention letting in other pirates in on it as well. But I still hold, and the fact that he was willing to admit to the kids that he wasn't a Jedi, he never said he was, which is true. Which is true. We made all those assumptions. But the fact that he was willing to clearly admit that to the kids at the point now, it was a tense situation the kids were taking advantage of, well, mostly Fern and KB, taking advantage of that situation to get him to admit that. It does show that he is willing to admit it, and there's elements here and there where I feel like, very much like Long John Silver from Treasure Island is part of his character inspiration. Well, I think over time he'll actually grow to find these kids and maybe actually tell them the truth. He's still probably not going to be totally, but I wonder if there's a heart of gold under there that just needs to be let out to the surface. Or not. That would be a great subversion of that trope as well. But there's so many interesting things. Also, too, well, it's clear that Fern and KB have the least amount of trust of Jude Law's character. I think KB has the most actual distrust of his character, more than Fern. Fern distrusts him, yes, but KB is distrusting him differently. Why? I'm not so sure. I just get this impression of it. And also, I would like to note that when they were heading back to their ship when the New Republic arrived, KB stayed a few seconds beside to basically make sure Kim was okay and talk with her a little bit too. So, Kim once again says if you need anything, contact her. So, allies in other words. But I think what that shows is trying to tell us more about who KB is as a person, because we've already gotten a good sense of Wim, Neel, and Fern from the previous 2 episodes, but not as much with KB. And here I think what we're seeing with KB is, she is, more analytical than her friends, but at the same time too that, despite her gadget on her head, which might appear analytical, she does have a emotional side as well. Which makes sense. Obviously, that had to exist, but this is showing us something we hadn't been shown before. So that covers most of my thoughts on this episode, but one last thing I want to address is the episode actually opened back up at Attin with all the parents meeting together, and then the safety droids come in and stated that they have left the planet, which Wim's dad already knew. He's the most calm one of that. But well, we know that KB's and Neel's parents are analysts. We know that Fern's mother is an admin. I'm wondering if Wim's father, I forget what they said he did. I'm wondering if he knows more what's actually going on than the others do by the nature of whatever his work is. I just wonder because he seemed like more resigned. Like, he knew that, great, we got no chance now, something like that. Like, because Fern's mother said that she wants to petition to meet with the supervisor, basically, I guess, to get an exemption, so that way their kids someone can go and retrieve their kids. But he almost calmest and most resigned, which I find interesting. I suspect he knows something that the other parents don't. Which is surprising, because you would think Fern's mother would know more, being the fact that she's an admin rather than something else. Just some food for thought there. But that's pretty much all I got for you today. I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode in the comment section down below. So I just watched the 4th episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Can't say I remember no Attin. And this episode again continues the mystery of what Attin is going on. There's a couple of different ways we can phrase that, but I think it's sufficient to say that there's 2 storylines going on. The mystery of Attin and these kids going on an adventure and growing up. Both of those storylines are progressed in this episode, and I believe it does a wonderful job. We get some great character moments. So, there's more I can say, but really I want you to avoid spoilers. So if you want to see my full review, the link to the full review will be down below. But in the meantime, what are your spoiler-free thoughts? Because I thought this episode was amazing. I loved the initial twist because, yeah, they were not going to arrive on the home planet that soon. I'm not going to say more, but yeah, that was obvious. And I liked how they did it and how they probably subverted the trope in a neat way. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So I've watched the 4th episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I can't say I remember no Attin, and this episode was phenomenal. I will be talking about spoilers in this review, So if you would like to avoid spoilers, I released my spoiler-free review early 2 days ago. Check that out. But this episode, let's just jump right in it. And so not only did I say this was a really good episode, I also think this episode did a really good job in showcasing what the two main plots of Skeleton Crew are. The mystery of Attin and these kids going on an adventure and growing as a result of it. Both those things have been always present in this show, but I kind of feel like the mystery has taken a full front in episodes 2 and 3, while the characters only really took a full front in episode 1. Though here, both of those plots affect each other, obviously, and they've always have been, but really could feel a good distinction, good balance between the two. And so let's address where this episode picks up. So we obviously know in the last episode they got what they thought was the coordinates to Attin, so part of me was like, there's no way they're getting home that soon. They don't. Instead, they arrive at, I had to write this down, at Akran. Not at Attin, at Akran. One of the 6 jewels of the Republic. And we'll get to that. And SM33, he does remember the name of this planet, but he can't remember no Attin. But anyhow, this planet superficially is extremely similar to Attin, except for it's a bit of a wasteland. Like, everything looks like Attin, but wrong. So kind of something that you will almost expect out of like a Twilight Zone episode, or even a horror movie or something like that, where things look right on the surface, but there's something wrong about it. And actually, the being a wasteland is kind of the key, but my first thought was like, wait, could there be some time dilation going on? Nope, and I'm glad they didn't go that route. They do figure out what's going on. Well, no, we don't. We don't know how Akron became like this, but considering what Kim said in the previous episode, what's going on is probably not too dissimilar to what happened to the other Jewels of the Republic, of the old Republic, except for Attin, which managed to avoid that fate. So our kids, well, they stumble into basically a clan war between 2 rivaling clan factions. I think they definitely probably took some inspiration from post-apocalyptic films and video games in that regard, like Fallout, and even some episodes of Star Trek even has this kind of going on some of the worlds they mention. And actually, that comparison to Star Trek is actually quite apt. There was actually an episode of Star Trek the original series where they landed on a planet that looked very much like Earth. The only difference is that there were no adults, but basically some roaming kids, for lack of a better term. And at first I thought that might have been how they were going in this episode. They didn't. I'm glad that, but that's actually a very apt comparison, because that world is described in universe in the episode as a parallel Earth. This is a parallel at Attin, and I think it's supposed to be showing to us what could befall at Attin if whatever was threatening the other crown jewels. I keep on saying crown jewels. The Republic's not monarchy. The other jewels of the old Republic, if they had not been deliberately lost. And I think deliberately lost is a key thing that's going on. So, like I said, they get caught up, and actually Jude saves them. He probably could have abandoned them, but he didn't. This is supporting my theory that Long John Silver from Treasure Island was a big part of the inspiration. But again, Long John Silver, he doesn't make a full amend of his ways, and since redemption is always a big thing in Star Wars, Jude, I think, will have a strong, true redemption. Because he does save them. He basically manages using some bargaining on that, with both the clans, mind you, to prevent basically our heroes from becoming child soldiers. Like, probably every child is on that plan because of the warring clan situation. He gives the clan that basically took our heroes in. Was able to get them back their hood animals, and all it cost was using Wim's credits on hand, Republic credits. So he identified with them all. Wim calls them something beginning for D. I forget. I should have written it down. But so while he does do that, he does steal from them. He does not run away. He could have. He probably really could have, but he doesn't. And he's also the first one to pick up that there's something wrong with SM33's memory, especially because there's a moment where it sounds like he does remember Attin, but he doesn't. George's trying to figure out that picture just like our kids are. I should say also too, during all this, the daughter of the clan, the warring band's leader that took our heroes in, does see the softness, the kindness in Neel. And now we get some great Neel, we get some great characterization from him, which we were lacking. Way back with episode 1, I expected that he was going to be the moral center of the group, and I think that is really showcased here. He does not see the benefit in fighting. He sees benefit in peace and all that, and being kind to others. Yes, our heroes have that too, but they're given the opportunity to, play with weapons. They're kids, of course they're going to play with weapons. How many kids have never, ever played pretended they were Jedi? Okay, Neel does do that with women in episode 1, but all of us, boys, girls, doesn't matter, when we were kids, we all had our fantasies, and we all like playing with cool toys. Some of us more responsibly than others, but Neel, he does not feel any inkling to even try using the weapons. But Hannah, so the leader's daughter, does see that in Neel and shows him one of the bigger weapons to see how that responds, but instead what she sees is his kindness and all that, which does seem to inspire her that when she becomes the leader, she might be able to take her clan in a different direction, a different path, that while still probably having to fight and all that might eventually lead to peace. Very profound there. And then of course eventually they are basically trying to be set in combat, but George saves them, and then they go to basically the hidden sanctum, which is identical, or we presume is going to be identical, at least on the outside, to the supervisor's tower on Attin. Because everything here, the base that clan was based out of, was the school on Attin, but here it's a military base, or a clan base, residential community, all rolled into one. And this, I think more than anything, is showing that this planet, something happened to it, and could have been the like I said earlier, the fate that could befall at Attin if it was discovered, if it wasn't purposely lost, or it could be because each jewel was experimenting for different form of government. Because there's one thing this planet has that Attin doesn't, besides devastation: a statue. The guy doesn't have his head, but it is a statue. So I'm thinking this planet might have been experimenting not with maybe a droid-run society, but with still a being-run society, but very top-down. Hard to say. But they are given directions to the hidden sanctum, which turns out to be identical to the supervisor's office, and they go up it, and they find a bunch of markers with planet names, including the planet on Akron and Attin and the other jewels of the Old Republic. I wrote them down. So the other four are at Oravin, at Arisia, at Atu, and at Akoda. Lots of at and A names. That's not a coincidence. The fact that all these jewels of the Old Republic have the exact same naming convention, at an A and then another word, is not a coincidence in my opinion. These planets, I think, were some kind of experiment. But all the planets displayed their coordinates except one, at Attin. And then SM33 doing all this, his memory's going a bit weird. He says that he was the one who destroyed it. That takes everyone by surprise. But his memory is kind of being fried. KB speculates if they could somehow fix his memory and all that, the minutes circulations. But doing all this, Fern goes off to the side. She's overwhelmed. She's crying. She maybe not full on crying, but she's barely holding it together. And Wim goes to comfort her, to basically be a good friend. And Fern actually expresses her doubts, how she's blaming herself for leading them on to this mess, from nearly leading them into battle where they would not have done well. and says that maybe Wim should have been the captain instead. But Wim says, you got us this far. And he recognizes that he would have never gotten them that far. That he probably, maybe he didn't say it out loud, but you can definitely tell that he realizes that he did not have the skills or the maturity or the gumption to be the captain and actually get them home. He recognizes that in himself now. That's major character development for him. No, he's no longer just in this for adventure. He does want to get home. He's matured. Is he fully mature yet? No. And Fern recognizing that in himself is also great. And the fact that she was willing to tell Wim that, yes, she went off by herself initially, but she didn't no longer run away from that. And that's showing real maturity on her part as well. A good leader will acknowledge their weaknesses and help the people they're leading find their strengths. That's what a good leader does. But she also, based on the conversation with Wim, leads her to basically realize droids do what they're told, and she realized that the reason why SM-33's memory about Aunt Attin is all crazy is because somebody told him not to reveal anything about it, just like she did with her nanny droid way back in episode 1 about where she was. That's a really clever connection there. I really thought that was a great callback and shows the development that they thought through all this. So she goes and orders as the captain to SM-33 to tell them what's going on, and that fixes his memory. She gives him a direct order, very clearly. Granted, now he goes a bit haywire because he reveals his old captain killed every member of the crew that saw those coordinates, and then ordered SM-33 to destroy anyone and basically rip them apart if they ask about Attin. So now that everyone's in danger, the one weapon they have on hand, the blaster, stopped working. And not looking good, but until Neel throws a rock at SM-33. SM-33 now starts going after Neel, but that gives George the opportunity to go in and flip SM-33's power switch off. That is really good, and also perhaps show some maturity, some development in George's character. Yes, he was going to use the blaster first, but that was very smart that when he didn't resort to weird flailing with a stick or anything like that. No, he used his brains and just turned the power switch off. And this also connects up with Neel's arc. Yes, he's always been the most center, but this shows that he can be brave, that he does have it in him. He does say earlier, I think in the episode, that basically isn't more brave to seek peace than to seek war. I would kind of say yes, because true bravery is basically admitting you're scared, but still doing what needs to be done. And if peace is what it is, which in 99.9% of the cases is what probably should be done, then that's being truly brave. And sometimes there's no other option where you may have to fight back, and that's also what Neel does in this episode. He might be the true bravest because he does all those things despite being scared, which is definitely saying something very important about his character. While he may be the most cowardly in some regards, he's also the most willing to admit his fear, which does show some pretty true bravery that the other kids are just starting to get. Fern had a little bit of that in this episode, maybe Wim too. KB seems the most unfazed by all this stuff. She is also the best shot of the kids too. Probably helps having her texting on over her eyes. I'm just speculating on that. So we learned a lot about the mystery in this episode. We get some great character moments, and then the episode ends. We don't know what's happening next, but that's so great. Because now they're going to potentially have to search SM-33's databanks to figure out the information, or go to the other planets to figure stuff out. I have a series, so stay tuned for my updated theory video on the mystery of Attin. This might become a weekly tradition as a follow-up to these review episodes. But in brief, I'm wondering if that pirate captain might have been hired by the Republic to destroy our evidence. That's my theory. I'll expand that a bit more in the dedicated theory video, which should be coming out in a day or two, so stay tuned for that. There's so much more I can discuss. I'm sure I missed something. For example, this planet, so at Akron, does have connections to the outside world. We do know that for a fact. Because one, they mentioned trading, so there's likely some trading. But also, if you look at the gear that this one tribe had, well, they had some Imperial Army Trooper helmets and goggles. They had some Rebel Pathfinder helmets from Rogue One, which also are very similar to World War II US helmets as well. I think that was definitely intentional way back in Rogue One. In fact, I'm pretty sure I talked about that in... That might have been my second ever Star Wars video on the channel. I'll try to link it in the cards if I remember, where I talked about the World War II parallels in Rogue One and specifically the Battle of Scarif. Definitely older video, but if you want to check it out and see how far I've come, or how not far I've come in some cases, go check that out. Still don't script anything. I'm looking to take notes. But that's kind of a sidetrack. But the thing is, this planet is not as isolated as Attin. They at least have some contact, though it's probably very limited and they don't know much about the greater galaxy because they'll focus mostly on survival. But they do have a connection, so they're not totally lost. But that's where I'm truly going to end this video. Well, Akron may not be lost, Attin still is, and the kids still need to find their way home. So let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comment section down below. So I just finished watching the 5th episode of Star Wars Scouting Crew. You have a lot to learn about pirates. So this episode I thought was really fun, interesting, exciting. It advances the plot, gives us some very interesting lore drops, and answers some questions. So my 4th Attin series video might just be an explained video because I think we have the answers. But suffice to say, I thought it was fun. We got some great character moments. A character moment beat, whatever term that I was expecting was a possibility, but I was hoping wasn't going to happen. But with who I think this character is slightly inspired by, it does make sense, so we gotta see how things turn out. So let me know your spoiler-free thoughts in the comment section down below for a review coming out later today, so stay tuned. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So I just finished watching the 5th episode of Star Wars Scouting Crew. You have a lot to learn about pirates. So if you want to see my spoiler-free review, it will be linked in the cards. But let's jump right on into this episode. So the episode picks up where they left off last, and they basically have SM-33 restrained, so that way when they reactivate him, hopefully he wasn't going to go crazy, but thankfully his memory has now been cleared and all that, so everything's hunky-dory, hopefully. But anyhow, while SM-33 doesn't have the coordinates to add in his databanks, he does know that his former captain would have had those coordinates saved somewhere in his pirate lair. We learn a lot about SM-33's previous captain in this episode. Basically a pirate of legend who mysteriously vanished. We learn what happened on SM-33. Basically, the crew mutinied and all that, and crashed on Attin and everyone died. Pretty much is what happened, except for SM-33. They decide to go to the captain's lair, and well, it turns out the planet is no longer a lair. Nope, it's now a pleasure resort. So yeah, so basically they con their way in and all that, and eventually they come to the lair, which has a bunch of treasure, a lightsaber, booby traps, all that stuff. But they do find it, they find the coordinates up, but also the SM-33's previous captain's log, which reveals what was going on that Attin. It's a mint. At Attin and probably the other Jewels of the Republic were mints for the old Republic. That's pretty much the answer to the mystery. There is still the question of the mystery of why are they cut off. That still needs to be answered. I think that has something to do with pirates and now, or something like that. That's why they've been cut off and have no idea what's gone on in the galaxy the past hundreds of years probably. Maybe not that long, but long enough that the plan has passed into memory. We still don't know the exact cause, and the barrier is obviously a security measure. But Jude, well, guess what? He decides to take this opportunity to betray the kids. This was something that was always in the back of my head, and does kind of fit in line a little bit with Long John Silver's character from Treasure Island. While he does grow a fondness for Jim, he still is ultimately a pirate. At the end of it, especially up at Treasure Island, he does take some treasure and depart. So even if Long John Silver was an inspiration for Jude, like I expected, then that kind of fits. They may just mix and match and all that to try to tell a new, different story. But one thing to note is he invokes an old pirate tradition of challenging a captain, so one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat, and Fern does lose. But the thing is, before Fern decides to, attempt to defend herself, Jude was pleading for her to yield, to give up, not to fight to the death. So either that's because they're children, or maybe he is starting to grow fond of them. But the conflict of his greed and his desire for the treasure versus his growing fondness of the kids, which I do think is evident. Because there's a scene early on in the episode when SM-33 is relating that basically what happened to his previous captain. Wim goes off, to a back room on the ship, which we find learn its name Cinder. We knew that, but it hadn't been stated in the show yet. But he goes there and John notices and follows him, and Wim's crying. He's overwhelmed. He had been wanting a real adventure, and it's way more than he bargained for. But John gives him some advice. Maybe not the best advice to, forget about, his family and all that. Probably not the best, but he mentions their attachments. I'm thinking John may have been at least briefly trained, at least in Jedi teachings, because he does have the Force, without a doubt. He even has said some stuff that I'm not sure if Jedi say, Sith say, or both say it, but relating to using the Force. So the Sith definitely rely on their attachments a bit more. Because what John doesn't realize is he has an attachment to his greed, and he's definitely growing a small attachment for these kids that could change how he acts later on. But yeah, he does betray them. But there was a lightsaber in the layer, which John takes at the very end. Wim did try to use it, but he didn't know what he was doing, had the lightsaber upside down. Oopsie. Thankfully he didn't get hurt, but startled him, and yeah. But John takes it at the very end. So there's some interesting stuff going on here. And the kids do, because with the challenge and all that, now SM-33 is loyal to John. Well, Wim springs one of the booby traps on purpose. So that gives him an opportunity. I do wonder how things will go, but the fact that there was a lightsaber in that old pirate captain's lair, the fact that John clearly knows something of Force teachings, including the Jedi rule against attachments, I'm almost wondering, because that lightsaber maybe reawaken something in him, some compassion. I don't know. I'm just wildly speculating. But there's some interesting nuggets that I'm curious how word develops. There's clearly, though, one thing's for sure about John, wherever he goes, he makes enemies. Like, literally. I don't think there's one episode so far with him where he didn't make a new enemy or ran into an enemy. Except for maybe the last episode, I guess. But the kids definitely grew their distrust of him. So they did meet somebody who, all they had to do was tell him a good story, and he helped them. One of the creatures, or one of the guests on the Pleasure Planet. So yeah, he helped them. But it's very interesting. It is very interesting, all the different characters, and Skeleton Crew is definitely showing us the underbelly of Star Wars in a way we haven't really seen before. It's going to be interesting to see how all this develops, how character motivations grow for all that, because I definitely think there's a chance that one of the kids will learn to harness the Force. Wim is the most obvious choice, but it could be one of the other kids. We don't know, and we'll only find out by the way the story progresses. I can't really wait to see the next episode. There's not too much to say besides, hopefully this is coming out on the 26th like I somewhat intended. Again, holidays have made this video recording a little more difficult, but if it is coming out on Boxing Day, well, happy Boxing Day to all the Brits watching this. But to everyone, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and may the Force be with you. And also, let me know what you thought of this episode in the comment section down below. I would love to hear from you. So I just finished watching the 6th episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Zero Friends Again. So this is actually the shortest title of the season so far, and while I'll keep this review spoiler free, I will be releasing a full spoiler review later today. It'll be linked down below, so stay tuned for that. But overall, I thought this was a really good episode. I really love the character moments that we got, and every character got a little bit of something, I would say. Neel probably the least amount, but every one of our main characters got a moment where hopefully a part of them, a part of the character that can help us predict, help us inform the way those stories are going to be progressed, were given. Again, not quite positive on that, but we definitely got some great stuff there. And this is not too much of a spoiler, but I would say KB probably got the most development of all our characters. Something I was really hoping for, because in the past episodes, her character development has been more on the sparse side, but she got some really good moments. But to see me fully talk about my thoughts on that, check out my full review. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I would love to hear your thoughts on the episode. And of course, may the Force be with you always. So I just finished watching the 6th episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, Zero Friends Again. This is probably one of the most short titles, and I will be talking about spoilers. Now, if you want to stay spoiler free, I did release my spoiler free review earlier today, so go check that out. So, let's actually talk about the episode. So, there's basically 2 plots. Our character plots have finally diverged. In fact, you could say we have an A, B, and C. Not quite, because while there's a moment where the kids do split up, it doesn't really follow in an A-B storyline because they come back together at the end. And honestly, the stuff with Fern and Neel was more to show maybe Fern's hot-headedness, the fact that she just keeps on doing something, and to inform KB's story, her character moment, rather than anything with Fern or Neel. Though definitely Fern got a little bit, because KB's story relies on the fact that Fern can get, in some ways set in her ways, and not necessarily consider that KB has limitations, has a disability, that can't do everything that Fern can do. And that's something that I think Fern does realize, at the end, especially when she hears that Wim had to basically remake a component for KB cybernetics in order to keep, KB alive. Yeah. KB didn't tell Wim that until afterwards, which probably was a good thing. Knowing Wim, he probably would panic. But this was a really good moment for him as well, because he got to save somebody's life. Yes, one of his friends, but this was really important for KB more than anyone else, because we kind of learned a bit about her. We still don't know what the nature of the accident that she mentioned in this episode, but definitely means that she relies on cybernetic implants to keep her alive. If we go back, maybe not last episode, but at least an episode or 2 ago, where KB's mother mentioned that concern for her with not getting her maintenance and her meds and that, and we kind of see that she mentioned she was neglecting the maintenance of her cybernetic components, and we can see the effects of that. Last episode, she was really concerned about the steam because of potential corrosion they might have on her implants, and it happened, and it was dire for her. I did wonder how dire was it, but the way she confirmed that once Wim finished the repairs, it was dire. And she also expressed that part of the reason why she doesn't always push back on Fern is because she's afraid of losing her only friend left. And so that establishes that whatever happened with KB's accident, she lost probably all her friends except for Fern, and therefore she holds Fern's friendship in very high regard and does not want to risk it by letting Fern know that she can't do everything. And there's a moment when they all reunite where Fern is apologizing to KB for basically leaving her behind and in the situation that led to this. But KB also apologizes for not telling Fern, for not stating that she can't do it. And while I don't think KB needed to apologize in a moral sense, she needed to do it for a friendship sense, for her own sense. That she needed to apologize to Fern in her own mind for basically not being honest with her friend. And that was important for her. Morally, she didn't need to apologize. But socially, emotionally, she did. She needed it for herself. And Fern didn't need it. She needed it for herself, and that's why that was such an important scene for her. And then they have to rescue the Armstrong. So this is actually a really great scene, but I want to save this for the end because it has some really interesting implications on the way the story will go. But let's talk about what's going on with Jude. So he's captured the pirates and they take him back. They also take SM-33 back as well. Who knows what they're going to do with him, but Jude is given basically a chance to defend himself before they throw him out the airlock. Obviously the Star Wars pirate equivalent of walking the plank. And basically he convinces the pirates that Attin is real and everything is gone that and Brutus gives them one chance to take them to Attin to prove that the treasure he speaks of is real. If not, out the airlock he goes. So, I just want to mention, I've often compared Jude to Long John Silver. After all, his pirate captain name was Captain Silver. There's a comparison there for sure. And what I think is going here is another comparison. Is it a perfect one-on-one? No. But especially Muppet Treasure Island, my favorite version of Treasure Island, by the way, there's a scene where basically all the pirates turn on Long John Silver, mutiny against him, and he's able to talk them into basically accepting him as the captain once again. Not quite what Jude does here, but it's a very similar beat where in order to survive the fact that he's now shown his weakness. Now granted, the pirates really don't see that he has a weakness, a care deep down for the kids. He doesn't want to admit that, I'm sure. But deep down he does care, but I think living a hard life has hardened him to not show it. But that's not why the pirates are basically putting him on trial. It's because they saw he was a bad captain and he was mutinied against, and now they've captured him after an escape. But there are those similar beats that I think is worth discussing, worth mentioning. Just like Long John Silver, he was mutinied against and he had a chance to speak his case and he's able to get himself another chance. Granted, unlike Long John Silver, this is going to put the entire plan of Attin in jeopardy, but the thing is, there's hope. There's a chance that Attin will be safe. One, the kids realize that the X-Wings are the good guys, the people that Kim called in a very interesting as an astrological problem. They realize that, so if they gain contact with New Republic, they'll have New Republic help. But the more important thing is, when they regained the Armstrong, first they had to get aboard it when it was being sent to the scrapyard by the planet's authorities. But they also, I should real quick mention that before all that, they witnessed the X-Wings chase the pirates away, so that confirmed. And there's actually a moment where Wim realizes he has such terrible luck and figure out who the good and bad guys are, because he follows a bunch of scavenger droids and takes him and KB to a monster who wants to eat them. Very neat puppetry, as I believe some of the behind the scenes shown there, but that's just a fun little bit that gave some stakes to basically the characters getting back together. But on the Armstrong, they have another tense moment. They got to cold start a ship and get it going as basically a giant walking trash compactor comes at them. And so they'll resort to doing the emergency explosive hull detonation sequence that SM-33 told them never to touch under any circumstances. This is a perfect example of Chekhov's gun. It was shown us earlier, now it's coming to play in the story. The perfect example. Of course, it's not Chekhov from Star Trek, but that's besides the point. I had to throw that in there. So, they do that, and that allows them to escape, but now the Armstrong is different. It's representing hope now, I would say. It has, instead of a jagged hole, it's now a much thicker hole. Kind of reminds me a little bit of the Stinger Mantis, actually, from the Star Wars Jedi games. Loosely in terms of how the hull is smooth and all that. But I see this as almost a rebirth, because the way the Armstrong left its old hull is not too dissimilar to a butterfly leaving its cocoon, a metamorphosis. I think that's very intentional on the part of the writers, and is a way of showing rather than telling us that things have changed. And butterflies can be used as a symbol of hope, a symbol of change. The kids, their ship is now different. They have basically a brand new ship, a brand new looking ship. Are they still going to call it the Oxindo? I don't know. But that's not the point. The point is this representation of a change, of a brighter future, a metamorphosis. The caterpillar is no longer a caterpillar, it's now a butterfly. And that's what's so interesting about this scene here, is that it's a visual showing of that. Yes, I've mentioned that several times already, but I really do want to stress that, because this visual representation is the showrunners, the writers, telling us we have a new phase, a new chapter in the story. The kids, well, because of KB's memory, they know where the home planet are, so they can go home and warn their planet about the pirates. They can contact the New Republic. The New Republic to help Attin against the pirates. There's a bunch of options available to them now. The kids also have a better sense that John's not to be trusted. I do still suspect that in the end he'll come around and help the kids. I do think deep down he knows what's the right thing to do, but he's not ready to admit that part of himself yet. Very old school Star Wars storytelling where everyone's a good or bad guy, but some people are, no, they were bad, but they're on their way to being good. No, a scoundrel with a heart of gold like Han Solo type deal. Or sometimes, good on the way to bad. Now, those would make good themes for the show based off of previous Star Wars storytelling and some of the influences Skeleton Crew took from. But ultimately, this is a change in the story. I expect the next episodes to have a different feel. Our main characters are going to be separated. Yes, the kids are still together, but Jod is no longer with them. They no longer trust Jod. If he contacts them and tells them that the pirates are coming after Attin and he'll help them stop, I don't know if they will believe him or not. Will they trust him? This is interesting because that change in the Oxindo is representing a change in the show, but we don't know how that change is going to unfold yet. But I'm really excited with that metaphor. I really can't wait to see how things are different, but the fact that I identify this parallel to caterpillars becoming butterflies through a cocoon, just like the Oxindo is now different than metamorphosis, I do think there is hope going forward. And that's ultimately why I think that the change in the Oxindo is supposed to represent that whole sequence there. Of course, those are just my thoughts. You guys got your thoughts as well, so I would love to hear them in the comment section down below. So I just finished watching the 7th episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. We're gonna be in so much trouble. So this is gonna be my spoiler-free review. If you want to see my full spoiler review, that will be linked down below and coming out later today. But what are my spoiler-free thoughts? I think this was a really good episode, a really strong episode. It doesn't necessarily answer questions because the last episode answered many of the questions, but we get to see some good moments. Really what I think this episode's main intention is to set up the final episode, whatever episode 8's plot going to be. That's what I think this episode is going to be about. That's its purpose. And if I talk any more about it, I'll accidentally spoil it. So follow through to my full review to see me talk about those plot beats and how I think they're going to develop. And of course, let me know your general thoughts and your spoiler-free thoughts in the comment section down below. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So I finished watching the 7th episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. We're going to be in so much trouble, and I have a lot to say. But first, I will be talking about spoilers, so if you want to avoid them, I released my spoiler-free review earlier today. It will be linked in the cards and down below, so go check that out. But let's actually talk about the episode and what's going on. So, the kids finally get back to Attin, but it's not a perfect thing. So, where to begin? Let's just open up with the opening scene. We catch up back again with the parents and what they're doing. Last time we saw them, they were going to hatch a plan because they weren't getting anywhere through official channels. So they launched a communication beacon through the barrier in order to send a message to the kids and tell them what they need to do. And they have to go find a Republic emissary who knows how to get through the barrier. One problem. They don't know, and the adults certainly don't know, that the Galactic Republic no longer exists. The Empire came in and now it's the New Republic who probably don't know Attin exists. Maybe Mom Mothma, but probably there's not too many people alive who still remember Attin as being a real thing, given how every character we've seen, including characters connected with the New Republic in some form, believes even if it's not a myth, it's been long forgotten. So yeah, people probably don't know about Attin that much. Though it was probably kept a really good secret, even if people did know about it. But regardless, the things that got me in the impression that they've not had contact in the outside world in a long time. But that's more speculation, and maybe we'll find out more. But so that's how the episode starts. And by the way, all the parents are apprehended by the droids. And so now we got to see the next phase of the episode. So there's basically, I would say, two plot beats. We have the pirates and the kids. So Jude Silver, whatever he's actually called. Again, what is his real name? He basically is still trying to fight for his life, basically, because Brutus definitely wants to kill him. And in fact, there's a scene where Brutus tells Jude that no matter what, Brutus will still kill Jude at some point. So yeah, that's probably not wise of you, Brutus, because when the Ankh Cinder arrives, they track it in and they capture it, and Jude takes the opportunity. The kid's trying to pretend the ship has something more serious going on. He uses that as an opportunity to kill Brutus, and all the pirates fall in line behind him. Yeah, Brutus probably wasn't a great captain because, he couldn't see all the angles. But that's kind of besides the point. The point is Jude regains control of the pirate crew and all that, and he figures out that the Ankh Cinder is the key to getting on the planet, and it is. Now, the kids are able to actually slip away thanks to SM-33. So while according to the pirate code, the captain can only have one ship, Jude says he's claiming the Ankh Cinder as his ship, and therefore he is a captain. And I guess there's somebody else who's captaining the ship that is taking orders from him for the pirate ship. It's a bit complicated though. But what does Fern do? Well, first they receive the messages from the kids' parents, and so that does inspire the kids to start planning their escape. Wim, of course, just runs head on in without really thinking it through, and it doesn't go well for them. But after Jude claims captaincy of the Ankh Cinder, Fern basically comes out and says, "Nuh-uh, I'm calling undoozies," or something like that, and orders SM-33 to get the pirates off the ship. And Jude's like, "That's not how it works," and the SM goes like that and says, "Close enough for me," which kind of tells me SM-33 rather have been helping the kids than Jude this entire time, I think. I honestly think that might be what is going on there, which is just hilarious, but I'm just like, SM-33 is like, "Yep, I'm going for it." Which implies that he's breaking his programming a little bit, because if it's not exactly the pirate code, the fact he says close enough for me is just so funny to me, and I really love that moment. And so they escape and they head down to the planet through the barrier. Of course, Jude does show up. He was not kicked off the ship. Could have worked on that a little bit better. And he decapitates SM-33. I hope they get him repaired. We need to keep our sassy droids around, please. And the ship goes on autopilot, and we find out before SM-33 is decapitated that the reason why the ship is able to survive is because it's actually a ship from Attin, and it's just been modified by the captain, the original captain of the Ankh Cinder, which implies that person, whoever the former captain truly was, might have been from Attin, which is very interesting to know. But again, Jude takes control of the ship and all that, but autopilot, and he's trying to get in contact with the pirates so they can bring all the ships down and that, but the droids are just going through the motions, and they take him to the vault. And it's the vault is free for, and apparently there's thousands of other vaults just like that one on Attin. Man, can I just say something? As a New Republic could actually get a hold of all those credits, one, inflation will go skyrocketing on in the galaxy, but two, that could actually be really beneficial for the New Republic for paying off debts and all that, but something's going to happen to Attin. But what is still a question. But it is an interesting thing to ponder. But anyhow, the droids do identify that the kids are the kids that are missing, contact the parents and reunite, but then Jude shows up after he goes gleeful when he knocks some credits down. Kind of reminds me a little bit of that scene in Muppet Treasure Island where the pirates find the treasure. In this case, Jude, the only pirate there is Jude, but I'm going to come back to that. And by coming back to that, I mean he leaves at some point when the parents arrive and ignites the lightsaber that he took from the previous captain. We still don't know about Jude's backstory, but I addressed this in a previous video. I do think he was a Jedi washout, that's why he knows the Force, but he doesn't perhaps fully grasp it. But the thing is that something's going to happen. I'm positive there's going to be a happy ending. Yes, he threatened to kill the kids' parents, but notice, he said that he threatened that if they do anything other than what he tells them, that he's going to kill their parents. He doesn't want to kill them, apparently. I still say there's a soft spot in him that he just can't admit to for himself. And perhaps he's going to be a very tragic character in the fact that he has that potential for good, but he just can't stop trying to survive. Stop, what's the word I'm looking for? Being a child. He has the scene where he basically complains in front of the kids about them, but the thing is, he's just as childish and immature as they are in some regards. He's lashing out, trying to survive, trying to make his way, and perhaps that's his thing. Is he never grew up. He became a pirate seeking maybe adventure, very similar to him. After he was kicked out of the Jedi Order or something, we still don't know. But the fact is that him and the kids are not too different. Yes, he said that way back in one of the early episodes, I think, trying to, appeal to them. But the truth is he's, I think, still, in many ways, an immature kid. He's grown up in some ways about the realities of the galaxy, but he's not left behind certain aspects of being a child. Like, would an adult really complain about kids in front of kids? Probably not, even if they are a pirate. That indicates to me that he's not mature, that he's never really grown up. He's just almost playing a role expected of him. There's a scene where Fern wanted to say something, but she doesn't, but I do wonder if she was thinking of calling him out on that. It is an interesting possibility. Now, the episode does end with him igniting the lightsaber at the very end, and it cuts. And that's why I think this episode, I mentioned that in my spoiler free review, is all about setting up the final episode. We needed to get the kids on the planet. We needed to get Jude on the planet. Jude also requests to see the supervisor, so maybe we'll figure out who the supervisor character it really is. Is the supervisor a droid or is it an individual? There's some interesting stuff going on. Now, I don't think the pirates will be able to launch an assault at Attin, but there's some interesting stuff going on there. And we know there was multiple mints at one time too. But again, sounds like those got destroyed a long time ago. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. There's still questions going on. Questions about why is Attin cut off? Do the adults know more about the wider galaxy than the kids? There's some interesting stuff. There's actually a line in the message that the parents sent their kids talking about how certain things they were not going to learn about until they graduated school. So there's some interesting things that I'm quite curious to see how they develop, but not really enough to make a whole speculation video on unless I'm inspired by something more in the future. But there's not too much more I want to say. I summarized the plot, some plot beats, things I thought were really good, but I do want to reiterate that this episode I feel like is mostly setting up the final episode, the final confrontation that's going to hopefully show us more about who Jude really is. We already got the reunion of the kids and the parents, but the kids still want it safe. They aren't safe yet. And so we haven't got that true safetiness. And we also have to see is, will the New Republic get involved at all? Because they got some threads there that they really need to finish playing up on. Regarding that. And that's something they're going to leave for a season 2 mystery, which, you know what, I'd be perfectly happy with. That's something that I could definitely wait, as this episode, or I should say this season, has been more about the kids. Another thing, I kind of have mentioned how last episode they call back to the how you can basically blow the armor of the ship off. Well, in this episode, KB once again uses the voice modulation her cybernetics allow to try to trick the pirates, just like she and Fern played a prank on Wim and Neel way back in episode 1. So that kind of shows how Skeleton Crew has been really good at bringing basically Chekhov's guns and making sure they play a role later in the story. The New Republic is really the only one, along with Jod's force ability, that they've now brought back into the story in some form, which I think is going to all come to a head in the next episode, but we just gotta wait and see on that. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode in the comment section down below. So I finished the 8th and final episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, The Real Good Guys. Being the final episode of season 1 means it brings its story to an end. And I think it largely did a very good job, almost a near perfect job. But I do have some things about it that I wish they kind of continued to follow through on. But I'm fine with that because that's not what the story actually was about. So just to keep things spoiler-free, as this is my spoiler-free review, if you want to see my full thoughts, my full review will be linked down below. But in general, I thought this final episode did a really good job at bringing together a lot of the elements in previous episodes. I've mentioned this in a previous review, but Skeleton Crew has done a really good job on following through on Chekhov's guns to make sure those things play an element later on in the story. And I would say they did a phenomenal job at that. And my only complaint about it is basically me wanting to know more about the lore as a Star Wars fan, which that's not the point of the show. The point of this show was never about the lore, no matter how much we wanted it to be about, but about the adventure that these kids went on and what they learned. That's what the show is about, and that's what they followed through on perfectly and ended perfectly. So those are my thoughts. Let me know your spoiler-free thoughts in the comment section down below, and be sure to check out my full review when it drops. But in the meantime, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always. So I finished the 8th and final episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, The Real Good Guys. Now, I will be talking about spoilers in this review, but if you like to avoid spoilers, I did release my spoiler-free review earlier today, so go check it out. It'll be linked in the description and in the cards. But first, let's do kind of a general recap of the episode and my general thoughts before we get too spoilery, even though that will be a part of this review, obviously. So I thought the episode did a really good job at finishing it, except for one area, which that one area is more about me wanting to know more about the lore and the after effects of the events of the episode rather than the story itself. So basically, I'm being too much of a Star Wars fan. I'm getting hung up by the lore and not seeing the story. But at least I'm acknowledging that in myself. So, like I said, I think they did a really good job at finishing that story. I've mentioned this in my spoiler-free review, and I mentioned it in one of my previous reviews, but Skeleton Crew has done a really good job on basically fulfilling Chekhov's guns. That being, if there's a gun or lightsaber shown in a scene mounted on the wall or something, it'll be used later on in the story. And that's something Skeleton Crew has done a really good job. They even did that with a lightsaber too. But that's more of a minor thing with the lightsaber. But the point is every plot beat or something about it comes back later on in the episode in such a great way. Or not even just the episode, but the series as a whole. Let's go through a couple of them. So first though, we probably need to establish what happens, because if I just start talking about random plot beats, that won't make any sense. So basically, the kids have been reunited with their parents, but John's playing it smart. He tells the safety droids to keep an eye on the kids because they're in trouble for violating the barrier and all that. Not acknowledging that he's in trouble. But he keeps Fern and her mother nearby, so he still has some leverage. But they go to meet the supervisor. And like I thought, the supervisor is a droid. And apparently the supervisor is not having the safety droids clean the supervisor's office at all. It's dusty and all that, but basically Jod identifies it's a droid, but the droid knows something that Jod doesn't. And this is actually some really bit of lore. So Jod describes himself as both an emissary of the Republic and a Jedi. But apparently the droid has had one transmission since the end of the Clone Wars. The droid knows that Order 66 happened, or at least as the Jedi are now considered traitors to the Republic. The droid still doesn't know about the Empire, which I find that very interesting. I do find that very interesting, and there's some interesting lore implications there, and I'll probably do a whole video talking about that. But so the droid is suspecting some things off, so he asks Jude, so what are you lying about? Being a Jedi or being an emissary of the Republic or something along that? And then Fern reveals that Jude's neither and is just a pirate looking to cause trouble, and Jude destroys the supervisor. And though one thing about the supervisor is very much an authoritarian. That's how Attin society has been run for some time. Just want to throw that out there. But by destroying the supervisor, all the safety droids get shut down and power goes out. But of course, to save Fern's mother does agree to help Jude get his ship through the barrier rather than destroying the barrier, which is good. But that's one of the Chekhov's guns. That barrier could be totally destroyed, and that comes in. But eventually, the kids, Fern's not there, but Wim, KB, and Neel come up with a plan to get to the ship, so that way they can get to orbit and call the New Republic, or the X-Wings for help. They don't really know about New Republic. So, there's a lot going on. They're running away from pirates. Neel at one point, his speeder, because everything's down except for their speeder bikes, but Neel's speeder gets destroyed in the school. But because of what happened in the previous episode at Akron, Neel knows that there is a turbo laser on top of the school. So he goes up there to activate it to distract the pirate ship, so that way Fern has a chance to fly the Armstrong off. But of course, the Armstrong is stuck, so that can't happen yet. So Wim and his father go to the supervisor's office, so that way Wim's father can re-engage the power, so that way the ship can get out. And during that time, off screen, KB starts working on repairs for SM-33, because once she's flying, she's getting the assistance of SM-33. Her mother's going to say, how are you flying that? And then we cut to SM-33. I do like that. I'm glad that SM-33 is being repaired. So he needs a bit more work. He needs to be properly attached. I hope they get to that. They don't in the episode, but that's fine, because that's not the point of the episode. The point of the episode in that regard is he's fine. But anyhow, KB gets to orbit and she sends a communication to Kim and lets her know that the pirates are attacking at Attin, sends her the correct coordinates, and Kim tells her that she'll get the X-Wings there right away, or the New Republic, because Kim actually knows the X-Wings are the New Republic, and so we just gotta wait. One, because they got to deactivate the barrier, because that's gonna be a problem for the X-Wings, because probably the stuff that is needed to get to the barrier has probably been long gone. Maybe it's somewhere in the Imperial archives, but there's no way the New Republic is going to know that stuff. I don't even think the Empire knows about that stuff. Because, again, the supervisor, we're still calling it the Republic. I don't think the supervisor knows about the Empires, which tells me a transmission was sent saying the Jedi were traitors, and then nothing. I have a theory on that. But again, that's going to be in a video I'm talking about the lore implications, because this is talking about the episode. But anyhow, so big confrontation with Wim and his father, and Fern and her mother against Jude, and Jude's using the Force and all that. We learn a little more about Jude, and what I think is definitive. I was thinking maybe he was a washed-out Padawan, but no. He's just some kid like Ezra Bridger, who a Jedi found sometime after the Purge, trained him a little bit in the Force before the Empire came and killed the Jedi. And then Jude was left with just basically what would happen if Kanan was killed after the first season of Star Wars Rebels with Ezra. In all honesty, there's some similarities there, and I think that's kind of intentional. What would have happened if Ezra got a little bit of training, but never had his training, by and large, finished? But that, we really learned about him. He's living on the streets, and he does acknowledge there's light in the galaxy, but he describes it as specks in the vast darkness, and that you have to do what you can to survive. So, he very much, well, I don't think he might be actually truly the closest thing we have to a Grey Jedi. I don't like the term Grey Jedi, but because he's willing to do bad stuff to survive, but doesn't seem like he wants to or knows enough to tap into the dark side of the Force, which is weird. But again, he's improperly trained, so he's just using it instinctually to survive in his own messed up mind. Because, like I said, I think there's good in him. He knows there's good in the galaxy, but he can't let his good out, because otherwise it's going to lead him to not survive. But notice, he doesn't really want to kill anyone, and basically there's a moment where I forget exactly which character it was, but no, he basically breaks down ranting about the state of the galaxy and how he doesn't want to cause anyone harm. This confirms there's good in him, but his own messed up life has convinced him that he can't act on his good if he wants to survive. Though, to note, he does not come down to Turbo with them, so he's still out there. Who knows, but he still has a chance for redemption because he knows what good is. He knows that, but he doesn't want to admit it himself or act on it, which is really interesting, really important to know about John's character. And I should also mention that the pirates do damage the Cinder, and it looks like it's crashed, but I figured since it wasn't a fireball or anything, KB managed to get at least a more gentle crash. And she does survive, thankfully, though everyone's convinced. And it was actually after that Jude, for lack of a better term, broke down, because now somebody that he grew kind of fond of got hooked. And I think that's, like I said, important to know about Jude. He never really wants to hook the kids, no matter all his posturing he may have done. And the pirates, the New Republic arrives. They got a squadron of X-Wings and 2 B-Wings. And guess what these B-Wings have when they unleashed on the pirate ship? So if you remember the Star Wars Rebels episode where we have the earliest timeline, in the universe timeline depiction of the X-Wings, they have, or the prototype I should say, has this beam weapon that can basically one-shot ships. That's what they have, and I was like, oh, cool. The fact that we got to see this, a call out to Star Wars Rebels. I mentioned some possible cinematic connections, but man, this was so great to see it. I just loved seeing that again in live action. And then, of course, all the kids unite. Of course, their parents are like, get off from the ship. You don't want to get squished right after your adventure is over, which is like such a parent thing, but it's true. Long Cinder is not in the best condition. We don't get to see we do get to see SM-32, and that worm-like creature that's been living in his eye, still fine as well. So all is well that ends well, pretty much. I should also mention that a CR-90 Corvette does come as well, so they got a lot of catching up to do, and that's where the episode ends. Pretty much. Did it end with that scene? Yeah, I think it might have. Or did it end with them reuniting as friends? Man, why am I messing up which way? But regardless, the episode's emotional end and actual end is basically with the adventure now being over, and we don't get to see the lower implications of all this, which frustrates me, but not, because I know I shouldn't be frustrated by that. It's not as far as the episode, because this show was never about the lore. Yes, we loved all the lore about Attin. We made series videos, lore about who Jude is and all that in the way, and all that. We love that lore, but at the heart of it, this show was never about the lore. Skeleton Crew has always, from the get-go, been about our 4 kids, and Jude, of course. But we got Fern, KB, Wim, Neel, and Jude. Those are our 5 main characters. And it's just great. And the character development, let's go through each. We have Fern, who clearly is, a bit rebellious and all that. We know that. But she learns a lot of responsibility in all this, which is just great. We have KB, who, I think is the one initially we didn't learn a lot about, but we learned that she's basically handicapped. She can't do everything that Fern can do, and that puts a hidden strain on their relationship that Fern, I don't think, picked up on, but KB was distinctly aware of. We have Neel, who is perfectly fine living in comfort, never facing a threat or adventure, but eventually learning, I would say, maybe to be the bravest, because it's one thing to face danger when you're not afraid. It's another thing when you are totally afraid. When SM-33 goes haywire at Akron, he is the one who throws the rock that gives him a chance to disable SM-33. Neel does that. This episode, he goes up and uses the turbo laser on top of the school to distract the pirates. And he was scared doing that. There's no doubt about that. But being so afraid and yet still doing what needs to be done in the moment is brave. Admitting your fear is also brave. Wim, he's been looking for adventure this entire time, and he's gotten his adventure. It was way more than he bargained for. He even had a moment when he was doubting it, but Fern's leadership convinced him that it was kind of good for them all. And I gotta say, the last scene of Wimp, he's looking up at the X-Wing. Might have been actually after Fern said you don't actually have to take the test now. But I think Wim might be enamored by the New Republic and he wants to help people. That kind of part of the reason why he was so enamored with the Jedi and the Jedi stories that he had on a holobook. Makes me wonder, is he going to now want to be an X-Wing pilot? Which means he could be fighting for the Resistance. It could happen. Is that probably the right age for growing up? Yeah, probably so. It's something I didn't consider before, but it's not impossible. But that's more of a lower implication thing. But now he has a new avenue where he could get his adventure, but also help people, because that was, I think, part of the reason why he wanted adventure. And John, unlike the kids, he doesn't really grow as a character. And that's part of him being the antagonist, the villain, the foil. He fulfills all three of those roles. It's showing what the kids would be like if, they don't grow up in some regards, fulfilling a role expected of them, which I think is part of what John's problem is. He sees himself in this dark galaxy with minor specks of light, but instead of trying to be one of those specks, he decided it's better to just accept the darkness, maybe not the dark side of the force, but the darkness and villainy of the galaxy, and try to survive the best he can in that. But within him is still that spark, that light of good. He just doesn't let it out. And which is a very important part of his character. He has that capacity. It's shown where he basically breaks down, complaining that someone finally got hurt when that was never his intention. And I don't think it's like the normal bad guy, I never meant to hurt anyone type speech. I think he's sincere. No, he's angry sincere, but I still think he's kind of sincere about that. He didn't want to hurt anyone, especially kids, because I think he saw a little bit of himself, and I don't think really wanted them to go down the same dark path that he found himself on. But he can't admit to himself that he wants to do a good thing. That's a very important part of his character. All of these characters are who we follow, and John being the follower, it means he can't grow. We can only learn more about him. Maybe in a season 2 we can learn more about him, but in season 1, he was to be the follower of the kids, a dark reflection of what they could be if they don't mature as a part of the adventure they want. Now, I mentioned low implications a lot of times, and how this show didn't necessarily answer all the low implications and what happens next. Like, I would have loved to see Fern's mother and the New Republic representative meeting and briefly just to kind of discuss what's going on in the galaxy. That would have been a great scene if this was a different kind of show. This show, that kind of scene would have not made sense. The kids don't need to know about that. They just need to know that the galaxy is a more dangerous place than they want, but there's still specks of light. And that specks of light thing is, I think, really important. They saw the speck of light and they took it. At had the darkest hours, but they decided to be the light, the speck of light in the dark on Attin, and called another speck of light in the great dark galaxy. Or should I say stars. The specks of light are the stars in the vast darkness of the galaxy. This vastness and emptiness of space. Something to think about. And this makes me want to mention a quote from Qui-Gon Jinn. It might have been the Bookmaster and Apprentice, and I hope I'm getting it right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but basically he states that he doesn't seek the light side of the Force because it gives him power or anything like that, but he seeks it because it is the light. It is good. And that's just what these kids learn in their lesson. Every place they went. And I think Fern mentions this to his mother. Everywhere they went, they saw specks of light. We have, you could say SM-33 was also expecting the light among all the pirates, because when given a loose, flimsy opportunity to turn on John in the last episode, SM-33 did. But we have that one, I'm going to call her a dancer, just to be a little more PG. She, saw these kids and let them know that pirate base was not a safe place for them at all, and they need to get out of there ASAP. Kim is another one of those. At Akron, I forget her name, but the one who made friends with Neel, and Neel reminded that peace was still always an option. She was a speck of light. Every episode has always been a speck of light in some form. Some more than others, obviously, but always a speck of light, a speck of hope. And what's more Star Wars than hope? There's more I could say, there's more I haven't said, there's more I've stumbled over, I'm sure, in this review. But that's essentially my summary, my thoughts, everything in my review about not just this episode of Star Wars Skeleton Crew, but the entire show as well. It's been this great and amazing journey where we're following a bunch of kids on an adventure as they grow up. They mentioned a lot Star Wars Skeleton Crew had inspirations from a lot of Amblin Entertainment films. In fact, them riding on the speeder bikes, to try to get to Long Cinder, kind of reminded me a little bit of the kids on bicycles in E.T., which I still need to watch E.T. properly. But this time they're joined by one of their parents. I don't think that happened in E.T. And also too, when there's a scene where they make the jump over the gorge where they found the ship way back in episode 1, and Wim's father is nervous, but he trusts them by going full speed over it, and you can tell a little bit of his childhood re-emerged during that little bit of a scene there, which was just a great little bit right there. It's not a huge thing, but a little bit of a character there, which I really just love, showing that, yes, his inner child is still there. And he had kind of a mischievous grin too when he mentioned that he's a level 11 or level 7, I forget what his number was, tech or something like that, and he knows how to restore the power. He had like a little bit of a mischievous grin. It's just so fun to see those little moments here and there. But like I said, that Amblin Entertainment inspiration, 80s adventure films for kids, or featuring kids, were fingerprints all over here. Treasure Planet influences. Treasure Island is the original book, but Treasure Planet is a great one. So is Muppet Treasure Island for adaptations. But those stories, their adaptations, clearly has some impacts on here. Jude, like I said, very similar to Long John Silver. His pirate name is Captain Silver. I don't think that's a coincidence. And like Long John Silver, there's a speck of good to him, but his rough upbringing means he can't act on it. But he's still the kids that end up in his charge, he still grows a little bit fondness for, and while he uses them to his advantage, when it comes down to it, them getting hurt is a line that he's unable to cross. And while in Treasure Island, when Long John Silver, that line goes with Jim, that causes a mutiny. With Jude, when he thinks KB has now been actually injured, he breaks down, and that gives our kids and Fern and her mother and Wim and his father the chance to save the day. And yeah, it's just great how they took these influences, mixed them up in different ways, and produced this amazing product. Now, I've gone on for over 20 minutes now of rambling. I've probably cut some of it out, so if it's less than 21 minutes, 50 seconds, you know why. So yeah, there's a lot more to say, but you know what? Let's continue the discussion in the comment section down below. Is there something I mentioned that you disagree with, that you had a different take on? I would love to hear that. I would also love to hear your takes too, things I didn't notice I contributed maybe to some character or some plot. There's so much good stuff in here, so many things where they mentioned in previous episodes that they brought forward. I'm sure I missed something. But this has really been one of the best pieces of Star Wars media, shows, films to come out since the Disney acquisition. The only one that might actually be better than is Andor. It's either this or Andor for being my favorite and best made in my personal opinion. You may have different opinions, of course, and that's what's great about Star Wars. We can have those different opinions. But what I asked, let's continue the discussion on Skeleton Crew. I'll probably have a video coming out where I'm talking about the low implications of all of this, because there's a lot of it, but I'll save that for another video. But in the meantime, I would love to hear your thoughts on all of this. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you, always.